Welcome everyone to the Municipality of Thames Centre's regular council meeting. It's Monday, April 12th at 1 p.m. And before I call the meeting to order, I'm just going to read a couple of words here. Effective April 8th, the province issued an emergency stay-at-home order. This response was based on increased COVID hospitalizations. We saw a 28% increase in this sector, and intensive care numbers increased by 25% in the period between March 28th and April 5th. Serious numbers indeed. I know we're all working very hard continuously to do our best to deal with the effects of this pandemic. I know we'll continue to support our local businesses. I think Dr. Alex Summers said it best the other day, that we are in the home stretch, and we know that the home stretch is the hardest part of the race. And I couldn't agree more. Vaccine availability and eligibility are changing every day for the better. Life continues on, let's continue on the home stretch, and we will cross the finish line soon. And now I'm going to call this meeting to order. Is there any additions to the agenda?
There were no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. I'm now looking for a disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Elliott.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I'd just like to declare a conflict of interest on agenda item 13.2, which is bylaw 24/2021, being a bylaw to levy the final cost of the work of the construction of the Switzer Municipal Drain 2020. For the reasons being, my parents, Joe and Judy Elliott, are assessed financially through this bylaw, and I've submitted this to the clerk in writing.
Council, any other declarations of pecuniary interest? Oh, seeing none, I'm going to move on to announcements. Deputy Mayor Elliott, did you have an announcement to make?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. The Women's Caucus is excited to host another free webinar for women across Middlesex County, including women in Thames Centre, to check in on how they are managing through the most recent lockdown announcements, as well as we are excited to have Corey Allison from the Rural Women's Resource Centre to talk about the programming that the only women's shelter here in the county offers, as well as OPP Constable Aaron Mosher will be on hand to talk about the mental health resources available across the county. This latest webinar is on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. and any residents listening who are interested can contact either Mayor Warwick or myself to register for the event.
Thank you. And any other announcements? Councillor Heeman?
I have to declare a conflict of interest with bylaw number 9-2021, which is the bylaw to regulate refreshment vehicles, as it would pertain to a pecuniary conflict of interest with a business owned by my parents. So they conduct similar events.
Okay, so when we get to the bylaw, what we'll do is we'll pull out both of those bylaws separately. We'll vote on the remaining bylaws and then go ahead and do the ones that are the conflict of interest. So today, we're lucky enough to have some presentations and delegations. And the first one that we have is Patty Kemp speaking to us about the climate crisis. And I want to welcome Patty today. And I did see that you were actually personally trained by Al Gore, which must have been an exciting moment in history for that. That sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to share what he trained us in. So I will get started on the presentation then. I'm just going to share my screen now with everyone. So hopefully. There, if you could let me know whether you can see that okay. And I'm just going to move a couple of things around here on my end. There, can I get the thumbs up? Are you able to see it all right? Excellent, thank you very much. Well, thank you for scheduling me into your council meeting. I know you've got a busy afternoon ahead of you, and I really appreciate the chance to give you this presentation. So who am I? Some of you know me. My name's Patty Kemp, and I'm a lawyer qualified in both England and Ontario. I'm an entrepreneur and a musician and a mother. And I grew up just outside of Thorndale, next door to my grandparents' farm. And after working and living around the world and across Canada, I returned home with my British husband and lived just down the road from where I grew up. I'm also a dog owner, and I'm hoping that you can't hear him barking away in the background out in the garage. And I'm a volunteer climate reality leader. I was personally virtually trained last summer by former US Vice President Al Gore, and it was very exciting. So why am I worried about climate change? Well, this is my dad and my daughter. My dad learned to skate and play hockey on the pond at his farm just outside of Thorndale. And I learned to skate and play hockey on the same pond. My daughter loves to skate and play hockey on their pond and on our own. And I think skating outside is part of our Canadian heritage. I want her to grow up knowing the joy of skating outside in the winter. But every year, our winter here in southwestern Ontario is getting shorter and shorter, and there are less days when that pond is frozen for skating. I see that change in my immediate environment, and it really upsets me. And there's change happening all over the world. This is the famous blue marble image, and it shows our Earth from space. It reminds us that we all share the same home. After all the debate about the climate crisis, there's really only 3 questions remaining. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change? We'll take them one by one. Must we change? Yes. Because we're using this thin shell of atmosphere surrounding our planet as an open sewer, and we're spewing all the man-made global warming pollution into it. So this is the basic science of global warming. You might already know this, so I'll cover it quickly. The energy from the sun comes into the earth in the form of light radiation. And then after the earth absorbs this energy, some of the heat energy is in the form of infrared radiation is radiated back to space. Because of the natural layer of greenhouse gases, some of it's trapped in the atmosphere. And that's a very good thing, because that's what's kept the temperatures here on Earth within tolerable boundaries that has given the rise to the flourishing of the many life forms here on Earth. But here's the problem. We're thickening this natural greenhouse gas layer. And as it gets thicker, more of the outgoing infrared is trapped. That's global warming. That's the climate crisis. And that's the essential cause of all of the problems that we're having to deal with now. So why is it getting thicker? Getting thicker because we're spewing 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into it every day, treating it like an open sewer. There's many sources of man-made global warming pollution: agriculture practices, forest burning, transportation, and many other factors. But the main source and cause of the rising global temperatures we're seeing today is the burning of fossil fuels, as you can see on the pie chart. Since World War II, that's been going up dramatically. So we're going to look at CO2 in historical perspective. This graph goes back 800,000 years and shows each of the ice ages throughout time. Carbon dioxide and temperature go up and down together. Throughout the historical record, the concentration of carbon dioxide has never gone above 300 parts per million. Here's where we are now. In 2013, we just crossed 400 parts per million. And this month, we're predicted to cross 417 parts per million, which is 50% higher than at the start of the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th century. It's the first time it's been at that level in at least 3 million years, and likely more than 20 million. In the next 40 years, unless we make some dramatic changes, this is where the concentration of carbon dioxide will be. So 19 of the 20 hottest years ever measured with instruments have been since 2001. Actually, 20 of the last 21 years, because 2016 tied with 2021 as the hottest year on record. And I need to update this slide because according to NASA, the last 7 years have been the hottest 7 years on record. On a global basis, more than 90% of all the extra heat energy trapped by our atmosphere is going into the oceans. This graph shows the increase in the ocean's heat content at different depths and how it's increasing at all depths. This heat makes ocean-based storms like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones stronger and more destructive. Half of the increase in global ocean heat content occurred in less than 20 years. The extra heat also disrupts the water cycle. So the amount of water vapor that evaporates off of the oceans increases as the oceans warm. The water vapor is carried over the land and often falls in much bigger precipitation events. When the land can't absorb all the water that falls in these larger storms and downpours, we see floods and mudslides. And here's one such flood in Montreal back in May 2019. Globally, floods and extreme rainfall events are happening 4 times more frequently than they were just 40 years ago. And in 2019, we saw these downpours in the upper Midwest of the United States lead to a situation where 20 million acres of prime farmland couldn't be planted. We'll talk more about agriculture in a bit, but this could easily happen here. And infrastructure is also damaged by these climate-related events. The costs begin to add up, especially for municipalities. In the last decade, we lost $2.5 trillion for climate-related extreme weather events. That's an increase over the previous decade of almost $1 trillion. Their projections are that this is going to continue to get worse. And here you can see that the years with the highest insured losses occurred due to natural disasters. The Department of Defense in the United States has long warned about refugee crises connected to the climate crisis, as well as pandemic diseases, water shortages, and food shortages. So back to agriculture. Heat stress is now beginning to decrease crop yields from rice, corn, and soybeans, and exposure to higher levels of carbon dioxide also decreases the nutrient content of many staple crops, such as wheat and soy. And the CO2 itself actually gives an advantage to some of the pests and actually diminishes the plant's abilities to defend themselves. In this case study, Japanese beetles that fed on the leaves of plants grown in higher CO2 atmospheres live longer and lay eggs. And the plant's natural defense mechanisms were hampered by the CO2 levels going up. Several new diseases and some previously under control are coming back. There are many causes, but climate change is exacerbating the problem. In areas with more moisture, diseases spread more rapidly. Climate change may allow the mosquitoes that carry West Nile to broaden their range and to make it more abundant. And warm conditions have been shown to instigate outbreaks. Mosquitoes carrying the West Nile virus were found in traps at the Sifton Bog back in the fall. And in Canada, the expansion of ticks with increasing temperatures is apparent from the graph. As temperatures increase, ticks are able to move farther and farther north. And as you know, ticks can carry Lyme disease. Deforestation is another important issue worldwide, as shrinking forest cover reduces biodiversity, affects soil and water quality, impacts wildlife habitats, and influences climate change. This shows the countries losing the most tree cover in thousands of acres per year. So as you can see, Canada loses a lot of tree cover, despite having strict deforestation laws. Cover can be lost for a number of reasons. Deforestation for lumber and agriculture and forest fires are easy examples. However, development is another reason that hits close to home. In climate change, land degradation and the loss of biodiversity go hand in hand. Undisturbed natural areas like wetlands and forests sequester carbon, drawing it out of the atmosphere and storing it. These areas also provide species habitat. In a recent study, the Nature Conservancy Canada identified the Lake Erie lowlands, which is where we live, as a crisis ecosystem. Although we have a high number of species, many of these species are at risk, and very few natural areas remain, with few large intact blocks of natural habitat. The region sees land conversion resulting from both urban expansion and the trend towards agricultural intensification with the decline of wildlife habitat in decreased pasture lands and forests. And wetland loss in Canada is another area of concern. Wetlands regulate, capture, and store greenhouse gases, and when they're destroyed, they can release huge amounts of carbon dioxide. You can see from this graph that southern Ontario has also lost 72% of its wetlands. So when you add up all the costs, and we haven't even talked about forest fires or ocean acidification or some of the others, I will add one more. It's the #1 threat to the global economy. It's the 4th year in a row it's been designated as such. And often you hear the argument that Canada doesn't need to reduce its emissions because it isn't a big polluter, or because of our size, what we do won't matter. Well, Canada is one of the world's top 10 emitters. The average Canadian emits 3 times the global average, and at most, our forests, wetlands, grasslands, and crops absorb only 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Also, our example can help spur the collective action required to tackle climate change, so we can be the leaders. So do we have to change? Yes, we do. What about the second question? Can we change? Luckily, the answer to that question is yes, too, because we have the solutions at hand. Just look at this. 20 years ago, the best projections for wind energy were that by the year 2010, we could reach 30 gigawatts of wind energy. Well, we beat that mark in 2010 and we've kept going. Recently, we beat it by 22 times over. And here we see an exponential curve when we look at the amount of wind energy being built around the world. However, globally, wind could supply worldwide electricity consumption 40 times over. With solar, it's even more dramatic. The best estimates 18 years ago were that the amount of solar energy we could install each year might reach 1 gigawatt per year by 2010. Well, we beat that mark when 2010 arrived by 17 times over, and just over a year ago, we beat that mark by 121 times over. And this exponential curve is even steeper than the one for wind energy, and it's rising even faster because the cost of renewable energy continues to come down dramatically. And we're not going to run out of it because we get as much energy from the sun in 1 hour that would supply all of the electricity the world needs for a full year. In transportation, we're seeing the beginnings of a massive shift to electric vehicles, and that's good news for manufacturing in Ontario. And buildings are a significant area of increasing energy efficiency. There's a huge incentive to reduce the expensive energy bills of existing buildings. The answer is to retrofit them. And when the energy bills go down, it's a win-win-win proposition because you create jobs, you reduce pollution, and you reduce the cost of operating the building. It's $1 trillion new industry that's a really big job creator. And you know, the jobs that are created in retrofitting buildings are by definition jobs that can't be outsourced. So it's the kind of job creation initiative the world's going to need post-pandemic. Now let's talk about trees. The World Economic Forum last January helped coordinate a 1 trillion tree initiative. It's not enough, but as Al Gore says, the most effective way of pulling carbon out of the atmosphere is called a tree. And to scale, it's called a forest. So we can change. The final question, though, is the most important one. Will we change? Well, we're seeing businesses move. More than 240 global companies have pledged to go 100% renewable, and more companies are adding their names and pledges to this list every single day. The market is also changing to help us in the journey. Here's the stock market going up, but here's the energy sector, the fossil fuel sector. They're bad investments now, and the word of that's getting out. And we're seeing a huge shift of assets towards the sustainability revolution. And in December of 2015, at the Paris climate negotiations, every nation in the world agreed to phase down greenhouse gas pollution to net zero emissions as early in the second half of the century as possible. The US has just rejoined the Paris Agreement. But climate action isn't just about what countries do. We're seeing corporations, states and provinces and cities commit to reducing emissions. But this is a graph of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada in megatons per year with estimations of future emission scenarios. And as you can see from the graph, Canada is not projected to meet the targets of the Paris Climate Agreement and has woefully failed to meet any previous targets as well. But although Canada has missed all our targets, I think there's still room for hope. This quote is from Paul Hawkins. He's the editor of Drawdown. And if you haven't heard of Project Drawdown, it's a fantastic resource for ideas about reducing emissions. And here he's talking about having a conversation filled with hope and with possibility and opportunity, not repetitive emphasis on our undoing, because there's still time to change course. But that change can't come from individual actions. He says that individuals can't be expected on their own to stop the Indonesian rainforests from being torched, but we can affect change when we work together, and we can affect change when our governing structures act. So action at the country level is great, but municipalities are key in the fight against climate change. Municipalities have jurisdiction over land use planning, waste management, building bylaws, all fundamental areas in the fight against climate change. Here's an excellent example of action at the municipal level. This is the Coldstream Net Zero Fire Hall in neighboring Middlesex Centre. The fire hall is one of Canada's only net zero fire halls. And last year, the fire station generated more energy than it used, with extra energy sent to the neighboring municipal office and to the electrical grid. When I spoke to Scott Mares, their Director of Community Services, he told me that when the fire hall was first proposed, he actually wasn't sure about net zero buildings. But now he wouldn't build a building any other way. Now, Thames Centre also has some exciting initiatives. Introducing public transit through the Middlesex Connect bus will reduce vehicular emissions from car journeys into London. That's such a great step forward. And the motion to increase biodiversity and carbon sequestration by adding more species to the seed mix you use to replant ditches. That's a great idea. I would encourage you to continue on this path. As a rural municipality, Thames Centre can have a tremendous impact on land use and direct carbon sequestration. As Brian Gilvasey, the CEO of Alice Canada, says, in Southern Ontario, we're losing our natural capital faster than anywhere else. But you can ensure that existing natural areas aren't destroyed. You can protect the existing tree cover by introducing a robust tree protection bylaw. You need to ensure that forests are not cut down in areas slated for development, including subdivisions, gravel pits, and industrial land. Require new subdivisions and developments to plant trees. And as a municipality, you can join the 1 trillion tree challenge. You can facilitate tree planting projects on underused or available land. And there's other things that you can do when you're located in a rural area. You can plant meadows or tall grass prairie areas, which also draw carbon out of the atmosphere and store it in the ground. You can protect existing wetlands and work to restore them. And you can really capitalize on the natural areas that make Thames Centre so special. Also, agricultural land use has a tremendous potential to draw down and sequester carbon. And farmers, a large part of your community, play an essential role in working towards climate solutions by using beneficial agricultural techniques. As a municipality, you can encourage landowners to employ beneficial practices like planting winter cover crops or using no-till. You could declare a climate emergency, which is a way to ensure that all decisions made within the municipality take climate change and emissions reductions into account. You can seek even more emissions reductions by setting bold targets and seeing if you can join those municipalities who are aiming to reach net zero emissions. Think about municipal projects that reduce emissions and increase green energy use. Green your fleet with more electric vehicles. Install solar panels on municipal buildings and solar canopies over your parking lots. Establish a program to retrofit municipal buildings, which, as we just saw, is also an excellent way to encourage local jobs and pandemic economic recovery, and will reduce the long-term costs of heating and cooling systems and electricity use. Encourage businesses and commercial buildings within Thames Centre to do the same. And I would strongly urge Thames Centre to participate in the National Climate League. It's a group of municipalities that share meaningful indicators about local progress on climate change. The information provided by the municipality would be entered into the National Climate League standings by the Climate Reality Project Canada. And then you can see how Thames Centre is doing compared to other municipalities across Canada. I can help facilitate this. So it's a really exciting time to do something. I love this quote. You are lucky to be alive at a time when you can make a transformative difference to the future of the whole life on Earth. The thing is, we need to act quickly because, as Bill McGibbon says, winning slowly is the same as losing. So why is it important to do something? For me, I want my daughter to inherit a world that's a joyous place to live in, where we did something to tackle the climate crisis and we won. I want her to grow up skating on the pond. When she grows up, I want her to remember skating on it with my dad, and I want her to skate on it with her kids and their kids. I want us to take brave, decisive action, like our world depends on it, because our world depends on it. So remember that municipalities play an essential role in making the transition to a low carbon, renewable energy future. I would strongly encourage joining the National Climate League, and I would love to give a presentation to anyone else who you think might be interested. And thank you very much for your time. I know you have a very busy agenda ahead of you. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy if you want to email me directly. And I will stop my screen share. There we go.
Great. Well, thank you, Patty. That was a very interesting and topical presentation. And just as a couple of points, I just marked down while we were talking. I don't know if you talked to Mark Brown before, but he's our forestry officer for the county. And he presents to us quite often and tells us how our canopy is not good, that we need to increase that. And that's a huge thing for the county, is to make sure that if a farmer is coming to apply to take down some trees to score off a field, that he has to actually leave a deposit to make sure that he plants new ones, and that's not refunded until he actually proves that he's done the planting. And then as a member of the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, I just want to let you know that we planted 2 prairie grass fields already this year, one in Elgin and one here in Middlesex. So we're working our way on reconstructing some of those fields too. And you know, you really did strike a chord when you talked about the outside skating, because as a council that went ahead and put the outdoor rink at Thorndale and saw how little it ended up getting used because of the warm weather and the changes so much, it was very disheartening, because I remember winters too where we were able to skate and do things all winter long, and you do really notice when you think about the things from childhood to childhood. And I see Tom and Kelly both have their hands up, so I'm just going to ask Tom to go ahead and speak to us.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Patty, for presenting to us today. I think there's a lot of really good ideas that we can, excuse me, we can look at and think about implementing here. And I just want to share some positive developments. And I know from, the community concerns and general discussions, I think we have looked into the tree planting requirement for new homes and subdivisions. And it's one of these things where it turns out that that's already a common practice, and we do have that in place. So that's one more positive step that I think we do have a pretty good initiative internally on some of these things. And I think if we put a little bit more of a spotlight, we can showcase some of the things that are going well, and also find some opportunities for some improvement. I think that that's definitely possible. And likewise, just it's kind of been announced, but not really that loud in Thorndale. But I'm pretty excited about the Upper Thames Conservation Authority's new demonstration farm site. Just around the bend by the Thames River there. So they do have some property that they manage, and they're looking at showcasing some best management practices really close and in Thames Center. So I look forward to seeing how that works in the long term.
Deputy Mayor Elliott, go ahead.
Thank you again, Patty, for this presentation. And climate change is something we absolutely do need to take seriously. And as Mayor Warwick and Councillor Heeman have both addressed, I do believe Thames Center, we are taking positive steps forward. We do have tree planting agreements with our new subdivisions. We do have a tree bylaw that requires 2 trees to be planted for every 1 that is cut down. And as Mayor Warwick had mentioned, through the county, we do have tree protection bylaws for forested areas. And also as a municipality, I know we've often partnered with both TD Bank as well as Upper Thames with their tree planting projects. You also did mention Councillor Heeman's motion that we brought forward to use the use of our roadways to plant native plants to encourage and protect the pollinators. And we've also been doing retrofit projects here in the municipality to conserve energy. And I'm really happy you brought up the public transit. And this past weekend, we actually launched a new Saturday route as well. So we have public transit running from Monday to Saturday. And actually in March, we saw the highest ridership we've seen since we've launched. So people are starting to take advantage of it, which is excellent. But you're absolutely right. We can do more. And I know we have our strategic plan coming up in the agenda, and climate change initiatives are specifically mentioned in our infrastructure pillar in our strategic plan over the next 4 years. So I'm confident moving forward, the Thames Centre can continue to initiate the projects to address climate change. And definitely you brought some great efforts and suggestions as well of more that we can do. And I'll just quickly add also, I sit on the Good Roads organization on behalf of Thames Centre, and we are doing significant work, and it's a huge priority at Good Roads to promote electric vehicles as well as automated vehicles on behalf of municipalities across the province. We have test roads running right now that are testing the use of electric vehicles and automated vehicles as well. So that is a main priority for Good Roads here in Ontario. So again, just thank you for your presentation.
Thanks. It's really exciting to hear all of the things we're doing. And as a resident, often I'm giving this presentation to municipalities I don't live in, but I'm really thrilled to live in Thames Centre because I think council's doing excellent things.
Great, thank you. And any other questions before? Oh, Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
Yes, Mayor Work. Just wanted Ms. Kemp to maybe comment on the issue that Texas experienced there about a month ago or so, where a lot of people had some problems, and a lot of people died because of the issue where they were relying on green energy, and then they didn't have enough fossil fuels to back that up. So I just wanted to see what her comments were on that.
Now, I think that there was a lot of conflicting information put out in the media, and I certainly saw different reasoning why that happened. And my understanding in the end was it wasn't actually the green energy projects that caused the problems. I actually understand that they had some serious problems with gas pipelines as well. What I'd love to do, Councillor Patterson, is get back to you. Perhaps I could email you directly or email council with some resources that might answer your question more fully.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, because I've tried to investigate it and try to look at the news and try to Google it, but I can't seem to get an answer either way, right? You see both sides of it, right? So trying to understand it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I've got some good resources that I can look into as well. So I will take that away and get back to you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to receive this report for information? Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? Great. Thanks again, Patty. That was great.
Okay. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have a delegation from Clerk Hallman, representing the youth of Thorndale and the Thorndale Dog Park proposal. Is it just Kirk, or is there anybody else?
Yes, it's me, Emma Jane, Hank Dawson, and Brooklyn Shilvers.
Great. So we've got all of you on there. That's great. So anytime you're ready, Kirk, go ahead.
Okay, I will just share my screen. Okay, so my name is Kirk Hallman, and as you said, we are here today to propose a dog park for the Thorndale community. I have one dog, I'm in grade 7, and I am the project leader.
My name is Emma Jane. So I've been involved with Thorndale for a couple years now. So I'm from a local town. I'm from Thamesford, so a bit of an outsider, but I still keep my toes fixed in with Thorndale. So I was the Thorndale Fair Ambassador in 2018. And now I've kind of helped apply for grants, and I'm actually helping Kirk and other fellow Youth of Thorndale members coordinate this dog park proposal. And I have one dog, and his name is Dexter.
I'm Hank Dawson. I'm also in grade 7. I'm one of the project members. I have 2 dogs named Brutus and Piper.
All right, Brooklyn might be having some troubles with her audio because I cannot hear her, but she is also a project member and has a dog named Willow. And so the benefits of dog park would include, there's a bunch, but so it would bring like more socialness to dogs and humans, giving them a better quality life. There's no current area in Thorndale to have your dog off leash, so people bring their dogs to the schoolyard or fairgrounds off leash, and that is a problem because poop is left behind, as well as people who are just trying to have a walk may be approached by dogs if they do not want to. And we also had put out a survey, which we had gotten 99 total responses from. People were asked to only fill out the survey one time per household. As well, the responses of 3 people who did not fill out the name question were deleted because we had stated that the name is required to ensure people do not fill out the survey multiple times.
Some of our 7 survey questions were: do you live in Thorndale or the area? Do you currently own a dog? How many dogs do you own? Do you have a dog that would regularly use a dog park? Do you believe that the community of Thorndale would benefit from a dog park? In the future, would you be interested in financially donating to the dog park project? You don't have to right now. Is there a location you feel strongly about the dog park being or not being? So the response to the do you live in Thorndale or in the area, 99 responses were yes. Do you currently own a dog? 92 of the responses were yes. Do you have a dog that would regularly use a dog park? 87 of our responses were yes. Do you believe that the community of Thorndale would benefit from a dog park? 89 of our responses were yes. In the future, would you be interested in financially donating to the dog park project? You don't have to right now. 68 of our responses were yes. And how many dogs do you own? The data from the survey, we had heard from 133 dogs. 118 dogs will regularly use the dog park. Thorndale has approximately 230 registered dogs.
Okay, so we also, when we had asked if there's any location people strongly want the dog park to be or not be, we had many answers, but everyone seemed to agree that anywhere would be great, with a few exceptions being that it's central, like not out in the country, and connected to walking trails. Our first possible location is inside the fairgrounds, and it is east of Agnes Street. It is central, walking distance, and out of the way, as well as connected to trails. The measurements of that would be, so this was originally being supposed to use for parking because the Agnes Street is being extended to go into the new subdivision being put in around here, if you see my cursor. So we would be hoping to split the land in half giving it to parking and half going to the dog park area. So they would each have an area of about 3,200 meters squared. And then we were hoping to split it again, giving a small dog area 1,000 meters squared and the rest to the large dog area. So the parking would almost double the current parking if we were to do the layout as we are suggesting. And our second location is a piece of land that has just recently become municipal property. In 2015, there was talk of turning this into a dog park along with biking trails, but nothing has been done to it yet because it just became municipal land.
Sorry, Kirk, to interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
Do you want to go back to the previous slide? I think you have to click.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there you go. That just the images weren't popping up, so I don't think people could see what you were actually
Okay.
talking about. So you're
Going
good
a little
now.
bit fast. All right.
That's okay.
Okay, so these are our 2 locations in the screen. The white circle is the fairgrounds location, and the red circle is the location I just showed east of Y Creek. And so following our features we had budgeted for, so double door entrances, fence, 2 separate areas for small dogs and big dogs, poop bag station, benches, trees, and things for dogs to play on. And that would all come to a total of approximately $17,000, sorry, $25,000 if we were to use residential fence, and $31,000 if we use commercial fence.
All right, so this is where I step in here. So if we bring of the total budget, the estimated budget for it would be approximately $35,000. Like Kirk mentioned, depending on the type of fencing that would be used. And that also includes money required to purchase trees if we wanted to plant them, which also, based on the previous presentation, would work well with what Patty Kemp was suggesting. To plant some more trees is always good. But essentially our plan, or what we thought we could do based on, we know there was a group of youth or high school students that proposed a dog park in Dorchester, and they were able to attain a fundraising goal of $10,000. So that's what we aimed as the youth of Thorndale, in partnership with I Love Thorndale, that we it would be feasible for us to raise around $10,000. And then next we have here is this potential grant. And I have it asterisk as $20,000 because, as many of you may know, because municipalities are allowed to apply for this grant, it's called the Healthy Communities Initiative, and it's offered as a part of the Community Foundations of Canada in partnership with the Canadian government. So how this Youth of Thorndale originally started was this grant that I helped Arden McLean apply for. It was a community challenge youth-led grant, which has allowed youth leaders in Thorndale to bring these proposals. And it's a similar thing, but the Healthy Communities Initiative essentially is to increase the amount of COVID-19 friendly public spaces. And you can either create new ones or modify pre-existing spaces. So we thought this was a very applicable grant for the dog park, and we applied for $20,000. So the application was due at the beginning of March, and we're supposed to hear at the end of April, April 30th, whether we will receive or whether they will accept our application. And the one nice thing about this grant is that there's actually a second application cycle. So if you've applied for the first time, they will give you feedback and you can reapply for the May application cycle to try and potentially get the grant again. And then additionally, we thought if possible in the 2022 budget that the municipality would be able to potentially contribute $10,000 towards this final budget of the dog park. Yeah. Do you want to go to the next slide? And then this is just showing the outreach potential and social media database that the Youth of Thorndale has, in addition to the I Love Thorndale community nonprofit organization. And lastly, we will also have at the bottom here, these are the amount of email addresses we actually collected via the survey, the dog park survey, of the people that were interested in financially donating to the dog park. So we have access to this information to reach out to them if it's possible to move forward with this proposal.
And that concludes our presentation, and we are open to any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Kirk, and that was an excellent presentation. And Emma Jane, I know in Thamesford you have a great dog park up there already. We looked at that when we were working on designing ours down here in Dorchester. So it's nice to see other communities getting it in place and being able to share that information. Council, does anybody have any questions for this delegation? I haven't got you on full screen yet. I'm still screen sharing. Okay, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, Mayor Work. I know with the Dorchester dog park, I was really in favor of that, and so was your council, and we made that happen, which was really great. But they didn't ask for municipal funds. It was a fully fundraise initiative. So I'm not sure why this group is asking for the municipality to put in $10,000.
We are aware of that, and we also know that the Dorchester group had tried to raise, I think it was the full $35,000, but they only raised, and I don't have the notes with me, but I believe it's 11,000, and they still owe over $20,000, which like it's harder to raise money after the dog park has been made because there's not really any incentive once it's already there. So we aren't even saying that we're going to try and raise that much. We're just saying that like this is how much we can do, and we're just hoping for the municipality to also contribute.
And Kirk, can I add on to that as well?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And I think from my understanding as well, there was the impression, or there had been talks in previous years, that a dog park in Thorndale was a very attractive incentive for the municipality, and that it was already being talked about potentially being implemented. So I think we've also taken that into consideration, and that we know that it's something favorable by the community of Thorndale, and that if it's already been considered by the municipality, that maybe it'd be an opportunity for you guys to contribute as well. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Great. Kirk, were you the one that was screen sharing? Do you mind going back to the full screen? I can't see everybody there putting their hands up to comment because I've only got 5 of you on there. There we go. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Elliott, you had a question? Or was it Councillor Heeman? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Councillor Heeman, your hand is up.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank the delegation for putting all the time in to prepare this presentation and work with the community to bring this forward. I think when we heard the discussions about the Dorchester dog park, I can recall saying, this is a great idea. Have you thought about any opportunities in Thorndale? And I tip my hat at your group for putting in the time and work. I just wanted to circle back on the survey results and see if there was any indication of those different options that you presented, whether there was a preference within the survey results, or was that a question that was entertained?
Sorry, if I can just ask for some clarification, Councillor Heeman. Do you mean if there was a preference in the location that they chose in the survey responses? Okay.
Yes.
Kirk, do you want to answer that, or?
Sure. Yeah, so again, we got a lot of different locations, some saying the fairgrounds is great, some saying that they're worried balls might go in, but for that, we were just thinking use at your own risk. And if you'd like to see all of the responses, I have it in a doc and I can get back to you with those.
The other thing with that question as well is that maybe just to clarify, is that we didn't really give them, 3 or 4 different choices. It was just an open-ended question. So it was saying, if there was a dog park in Thorndale, where would you want that to be? So when he says he's got a compiled list, is that everyone could just say what they thought. It wasn't, pick one of 4 options of where the dog park would be, if that helps.
Deputy Mayor Elliott, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I would just like to thank Kirk and Hank and Brooklyn and Emma for your presentation, and it shows incredible leadership for completing the survey, doing all the additional research that you needed to do regarding the location, what happened here in Dorchester, going out to get the quotes for fencing. There's obviously a lot of passion for this project, and you are right, Emma. I'll just circle back when we did the master trails plan. When we were doing all of the community feedback for there was talks about a dog park, and you actually did even circle, it was in that wooded area, was when we were doing the master trails community feedback, is where a dog park was discussed as a potential spot for that, just because it would hook up with our trail system. But just to go back, it does remind me, and we've been talking about the Dorchester dog park, but when Tanner and Brooke and Renee and Carly had come to council to propose the dog park in Dorchester, and it's because of those 4 youth is why we have an off-leash dog park here in Dorchester. And I think it was a longer process than they had expected. They had came to present to council in May of 2019 with their idea. And it wasn't until August of 2020 that we actually opened the park. So there is that, to go through the municipal processes, it does take time. And as you've mentioned, it does have to go through a budget process like any municipal project would do. And it was very intelligent of you to suggest that even though you do intend to get fundraising and grants, that if those don't come through, the municipality would be on the hook. So it was smart to include that in your presentation. I know that Dorchester had intended to fundraise the full amount, but as of today, it cost the municipality $36,000 for this project. So although the intentions were there to do a lot of fundraising, it was municipal dollars that went towards it. So with that being said, I would like to put a motion on the floor because I do think this project is very important and I don't want you to lose any ambition or passion for this. And so the motion I'd like to put on the floor is that we would receive this presentation by Clerk Hallman and the youth of Thorndale regarding the Thorndale Dog Park proposal as information, and also that staff be directed to allocate $36,000 in the 2022 capital budget for council's consideration, and that if that $36,000 is successfully passed in the 2022 capital budget, that a Thorndale Dog Day Park Committee of Council be formed, and that members from the youth of Thorndale be appointed to that committee. And again, I'll just note, I know they had only asked for the $30,000, but just since the dog park in Dorchester is sitting at $36,000 in municipal funds, I just want to keep it the cost realistic. And so that would be my motion on the floor.
Councillor Heeman?
I would like to second that motion.
So we have a mover and a seconder, and I see our treasurer has popped up, which usually means that she has a comment. So I would like to invite her to go ahead and comment on this motion.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify for 2020, Deputy Mayor Elliott is completely correct with the numbers that she's presented from a fundraising perspective. At the end of 2020, what we've done as a municipality is we've set up a donations receivable account as opposed to actually funding that shortfall in fundraising from municipal dollars. So at this point, there has been no confirmed municipal dollars to go towards that Dorchester project. If in 2021 fundraising efforts result in an additional shortfall, I'm anticipating that we'll have to have a discussion as council as to what our funding options are for that shortfall. So I just wanted to provide that clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Grogan. And I think that, you know, a lot of plans went awry when the pandemic hit. I mean, we weren't able to go out and promote the dog park as much as we would like to. I don't think it's a lack of anybody wanting to contribute. I just think it's a matter of the sign of the times. And I'm sure that when things open up again, we'll be able to promote a little bit more. And Deputy Mayor Elliott, did you have your hand up again? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that obviously the intention of the group is to fundraise and to get grants and to go out for that money. But I think the smart way to go about this is to put the full amount in the budget, just so we are prepared going into the 2022 budget. And if at the end of the day, they do their fundraising, they get their grants, and they don't need to use that allocated money, then that's absolutely fantastic. But I just think from a smart fiduciary responsibility that we have, just to have that money set aside just in case.
Councillor Patterson?
Yes, Mayor Work, I fully support this dog park initiative. I mean, I was on the Dorchester one too. I think it's a great idea. I like what Dorchester did, where, you know, Mr. Zelenko said, we're going to raise this money. I expect that he will. It'll take some time, and I don't think we should do anything different with Thorndale. So I wouldn't support putting this in the budget at all.
Okay, so we have a mover and we have a seconder for this, and I believe the motion was for the consideration in the budget, not necessarily having it in the budget. So I just want to clarify that it was to be listed on the budget, but it doesn't necessarily mean that at the time of budget that it will go through. There's always a chance that council will find otherwise, but I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on the motion. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? And against? Okay, so motion carried. Oh, did you want to speak to?
I would. I thank you. To the group that just presented, I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. This is not an easy task. It is not an easy task in these times. And I want to let you know, in thinking of the future, you're going to be well ahead of the game on presentations that happen in this format. There's been a lot of adaptation in the world, and I just wanted to make a comment that you've all done a great job. And I have one last question, and it's a very, very important one. Kirk, what kind of dog is Trevor?
He is an Aussie Doodle, so an Australian Shepherd and Poodle mix.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. Thank you so much. Very nice markings.
All right.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And
Thanks for having us.
it was great to have you. Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing that coming up in front of us. Good work. Okay, so next we have CEO Henry with the Thames Centre Strategic Plan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Council. I was secretly hoping Kirk would hang around and present this one for me, so they did a great job. Okay, so Sarah's going to walk through. She's controlling the pages, so if I get off here, off slide a little bit, please let me know, and I'll just certainly advance as we go along. It is with great anticipation that I'm presenting the 2020-2024 strategic plan. As Council is well aware, we started this in 2019. We went out to public with survey, and I certainly didn't expect to deliver it this way. The strategic plan has survived not only a pandemic, but a reorg within this organization and a reorg within the OMAFR organization, and the hiring and the recruitment of a new consultant to help us finish up. So I'd like to thank of course, Vicki Lass, who started with us, and Council, you'll remember her, as she put us through the paces as far as many of the easels and boards and markers that were flying around Council for a few meetings. And Nancy Orr, who you didn't meet, who came on to finish up the project with us with some of Vicki's consult through that as well. So I'd like to thank them and find to your liking. We're going to start off with a message from the Mayor and Council. I'm going to ask the Mayor to read that part because that is yours. And then I'm hopefully efficiently going to flow through the vision right through to the responsible leadership and how you can keep in touch along the way with our new 2020-2024 strategic plan.
Thank you, CAO Henry. This is the message that is included with the strategic plan. On behalf of the Council of the Municipality of Thames Centre, I am pleased to share with you our 2020-2024 strategic plan. This plan outlines initiatives and objectives that Council and staff will achieve over a 4-year period. It will help guide Council in decision-making and define the direction of Thames Centre, both as a municipality and a community. Many community members provided feedback to help create this plan, with input from key stakeholders, partners, residents, business owners, property owners, club members, senior center users, facility users, employees, and volunteers. The Thames Centre Strategic Plan is composed of the municipality's vision, mission, core values, and strategic pillars. With our vision at the forefront and our mission guiding our work, we will move forward in a planned and thoughtful way. Our core values provide a framework for how we work with each other and with partners to deliver our strategic pillars. Our strategic pillars are priorities that will drive programming, work planning, and budgeting over the next 4 years. I'd like to thank Council, staff, and community members who have all contributed to this plan. We have worked hard together to develop a framework that reflects the priorities of our community and sets a clear direction for the future of Thames Centre. Thames Centre is a wonderful place to live for so many reasons. Council and I look forward to working together, along with staff and community, to bring this plan to life and make our community even better than it already is. And I'm going to hand it back over to you, CEO Henry.
That's what I was told. Thank you, Your Worship. Moving along. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so the vision and the mission statement that you're about to go through started off as very, very long paragraphs, very long sentences, and those are things that get lost along the way. So Council, we have narrowed it down for your vision for your consideration, as the report will be coming forth in the first item of the agenda when we get that far. That Thames Center is a vibrant, safe community combining innovation and tradition for all stages of your life. And as councils remember, the words that were all put together, we pulled some key phrases out, and that's what we drilled down to in coming up with the vision. The mission statement: working together to sustain and grow our community through quality services and responsible leadership. Again, same as the vision statement, we went through many paragraphs of words, pulled everything through on council's suggestion. And I should note that there was a large amount of staff involved in this process. The final touches that were put on this were done with the consultants and senior staff to bring for council's consideration. I'll ask that you move to the next slide, Sarah, please. So within this initiative, we came up with some core values, and we felt that these were the 6 core values as a municipality we wanted to portray. And again, it's taken from the research that we acquired. It's taken from the survey that was done for the public, and a collaboration that we had much of the 2019 time period when we were able to gather together. So starting with our core values, we're going to move with collaboration, cooperation, and mutual respect are foundational to all aspects of Thames Center's work. We're committed to a balanced and responsible growth. We're open, ongoing two-way communication and inclusivity to ensure engagement and participation for all residents, businesses, and staff. Effective, efficient, and sustainable service delivery. Safety and security and residents, businesses, staff, and property. And lastly is transparency, fiscal responsibility, accountability, and resiliency are essential for all departments, leadership, and staff. Okay, thanks, Sarah. Okay, so now within the hinging off of the core values, we came up with 3 strategic pillars. And obviously they're in front of you. They're in community development, infrastructure, and responsive leadership. You've already heard some alluding to that in the entry points with Patty's presentation. Within these, and I'm going to ask you to be patient, there are 9 goals and 69 objectives that fall into these pillars. And I want to go through them all because if everybody comes back to reference this, they're going to know that we've had some direction. We know that we're all heading in the same direction. And there's a unified approach to all this as brought forth by council, senior staff, the public survey, all those things combined into this. And that's how we came up with where we'll be going over the next or the balance of these, the 4 years with this, this package. So we're going to start with community development, which is up next. So the primary goal with the community development is Thames Center will have opportunities for all to live a vibrant, engaged life, making the municipality an attractive place to enjoy lifelong vitality. And the priorities we wanted to set was we're open for business and we want to have lifelong vitality. We want people to come here. We want people to move here. We want people to stay here. That was the whole idea behind the priorities. Now, in each of these pillars, there's a short-term and a medium-term and a long-term goal. And within each one of those, you're going to see some things that maybe have happened. When we started this initiative in 2019, we had some goals, we had some capital projects we were working on, and through 2020, we were obviously able to make some of those come to fruition. So if you see something here that's happened, that's actually a good thing. That means we're moving on a path that was already predetermined somewhat, and taking into consideration all the future that we wanted to have. So in the short term, we wanted to organize and promote municipal events such as Bridgefest and Canada Day. It's something that has been long-standing in this community has been Canada Day. We want to keep focusing on that and bringing that forward. Bridgefest is a new initiative that we want to keep expanding upon. We want to expand upon the recreation center's programming. What more can we offer the community as it ages and then doesn't? So we want to find the youth. We want to engage them in things that we just maybe don't know about yet. Dog park development in Dorchester and Thorndale. Well, one of those has come to fruition. You just made a decision to pursue or consider one in Thorndale as well, which is fantastic. There's a beautification through flowers, flags, banners, containers, benches, and lighting. And you're starting to see some of those changes already with some of the banner programs we've instigated and the benches program and some of the changes to flowers that we've made in the community over the past few years. In the medium term, Food truck bylaw, well, coincidentally, that is on today's agenda, so we'll take a look at that a little bit later. There's a sign bylaw that needs to have some revision put to it. Tree planting program, which certainly hinges off of Patty's presentation earlier, and a secondary plan to foster development opportunities along the 401. Modernize a pool facility. Well, we've done that as well, and hopefully we're going to get to a point where we're going to be able to use that facility. And we're going to organize and promote municipal events such as Earth Day and artisan markets. In the long term, we have to have take another look at the Trails and Master Plan. The Recreation Master Plan is due. The Community Improvement Plan should have some consideration. A wayfinding plan within the municipality. Enhance strategic partnerships to support business development and retention. Attainable housing. We've heard lots of discussion over the past while about housing in the community and what is, one, affordable, and two, available. There's lots of things to consider. Seniors and youth engagement. Design standards to promote vibrant, safe, and an inviting downtown in both Thorndale and Dorchester and any of the little future hamlets that continue to grow. I'm on to the next, Sarah. Thank you. Okay, so under infrastructure, the primary goal here was Thames Center focuses on infrastructure to support all stages of your life. You'll notice that hinges off of the vision, so it's migrated over into our infrastructure as well. Priorities are the community facilities, the transportation, and environmental services. On the short term is the new Thorndale Community Center programming space evaluation, and that evaluation is coinciding with the new Thorndale Community Center that has just been put up. We need to find out who our users are going to be, who's coming in there, who do we make priority for, who do we shift over and adapt to. Participation in a regional transit system, already there. And as noted earlier, it's starting to gain some traction, which is fantastic. And we know when we come out of this pandemic, we know it's going to be used even more. It's nice to have it in place. Responsiveness to drainage petition requests and notifications. And of course, the new Thorndale Fieldhouse, which just broke ground recently to support local athletics and sport tourism. So in the medium term, a wading pool replacement in Dorchester, that is there for consideration. Of course, it'll be in the future to bring forth to council to look at. The wading pool has been instrumental in us having junior guards, promoting them to regular guards in our pool. And while many municipalities are suffering finding these people to work as guards, we haven't had that because we've had this structure in place, or this infrastructure in place. The Dorchester Senior Center, in addition to support growth, space optimization, and expanding programming. This is not a small group, and it is not going to get any smaller over the upcoming years, so that we have to find some options to make sure that we're viable in housing these people. Thames Center Operations Center addition. As we grow, and you're seeing 7 separate development areas in the municipality, that means more roads, that means more infrastructure, that means more equipment is necessary to keep this infrastructure looked after. Dorchester Fire Hall addition is in the future, and again, the same reasons. Growth of a community means we have to have the vehicles and the equipment necessary to keep this community safe. Again, one of our core items that we want to focus in on. In the long term, it's the continual evaluation of a capital plan, upgrade street profiles, bring the modern urbanized standards to infrastructure is renewed, sidewalks, map locations, identify upgrades, gaps, where are we falling short. Climate change initiative, again, something that Patty has brought forth to us, water and wastewater master servicing plan, and the traffic calming study. Again, another item that is in today's agenda, coincidentally, but you'll notice throughout the municipality, we have put up radar signs in many communities, already yielding results and already yielding good data that we're able to present to people to help us enforce safety within the municipality. Improved Wi-Fi access at parks, outdoor spaces, community facilities, and throughout the municipality. The SWIFT initiative has begun, and you're going to see 486 homes that get some form of broadband or some form of internet that will be able to link this community a little stronger. The landfill expansion that is under consideration right now as well, but again, it's a long-term situation. And then there's expand on baseball diamonds and outdoor recreation complexes is on the horizon too over the next 3 to 4 years. Responsive leadership. Okay, this one's lengthy. Bear with me. Thames Center encourages an environment of innovation, resilience, and community through responsive leadership. The priorities here are strategic direction, investing in our team, communication and collaboration, and community-focused delivery. So in the short term, yearly financial reporting. That's something we do all the time, and that's always there, but it's something we're going to obviously continue to do. Strategic plan, align all the work through this plan to continuous measuring, monitoring, evaluating, and reporting. I'll stop there for a quick second because the intention is, and I'm sort of making an announcement to the clerk's department at the same time, is this will be an item in each and every one of our reports coming to council. The report has to hinge somewhere on how it is contributing to the strategic plan. If we don't reference back to the plan means nothing. So this isn't going to be said today, put on a shelf, and not carried through with. That has to represent the plan, the reporting that is. Equity, diversity, and inclusivity, three important words, very important words. We hung on these words over and over again, and they kept coming up throughout the whole entire process through the strategic plan. So those are three words you're going to see with us over the next 4 years. Development of a communication strategy, tools, and resources. You've seen us reinstigate with social media. We have Twitter out there now. We have a municipal app that we have developed. There is all kinds of things that we're pushing the measure out, or the media, and we're pushing the information out so everybody can learn more about this municipality and all that it has to offer. The live stream council and committee meetings of Thames Center. Well, I'm sure they're more attended now than they were when we just had a room here that anybody could come to. So I'm glad that it's there, and I know it's getting some use and some vision. Increased use of survey polls on municipal website and social media to obtain public feedback. We've learned people want to be heard, and there's lots of ways that we can figure that out. And a citizen request portal. Well, if you don't know about it now, it's there, and you should use it. Come in, make an inquiry, make a complaint, make a compliment, do whatever you like with that. But we encourage that you reach out to us. There's a lot of problems that if we don't hear about them, we can't help you, but we want to help, and staff is here to help you. In the medium term, the official plan review is in the works. There's some public session that is being spoken about to happen in September. So stay tuned for that. Keep in mind that that is in the early stages of development. There's a community safety and well-being plan that's been ongoing for the past while. Workplace optimization plan, audit of office space, corporate growth plan, and reduction of environmental footprint. Well, during COVID and in our modernization situation, we have learned that meetings like this can happen very, very quickly and be put together very quickly. We've had staff analyze for ergonomics, and we're starting to figure out that maybe we don't have to invest in our bricks and mortar infrastructure so much when we've got all these options now of working from home, some flexibility, that kind of thing, which is a great advantage. And if you take a bad situation and maybe, wring some good out of it. And that's what we've been up to with the COVID and modernization initiatives. Enhancing technology and digital delivery of municipal services has come in parallel with that as well. So we've learned that we can accept payment, we can issue permits, we can continue with planning processes. There's all kinds of things that we can continue to do in a more efficient function, and it's been learned just in the middle of a pandemic. Media development of a website and social media accounts. Well, we're ahead of that, but there's always bigger and better things that we can do. And then develop a new resident business welcome package. There's been some discussion when people come to move to Thames Center that we hand them a package. It gives them an idea of all the venues and community events and landfill hours and all the service clubs and all the great stuff that they can tap into when they arrive. And that's something we're working with some of the service clubs as well. We've appreciated their input. Finally, long term. Okay, so environmental sustainability. Focus, of course, and that's something we heard from Patty earlier again. Asset management plan, that continues to have deadlines. We're meeting all those deadlines. We're on track with that. As you heard from our municipal auditor last year, our asset management has not looked better, and we're proud of that, but we've still got some criteria to do over the next few years under provincial mandate. There's a development charge review coming, capital project updates, We've spent a lot of money, particularly in 2018 and 2019. We spent over $30 million in capital projects. We've got to pull that back a little bit, but not provide services or provide the amenities that this community needs in doing so. But we're being financially responsible over the next few years with these capital initiatives. We're going to cultivate continuous learning for Thames Center staff, something that has been near and dear to my heart everywhere I've been, and it hasn't been limited to here, is if we have to invest in our people. And people will say, you invest in them and they'll leave. Well, if we don't invest in them, God help us if they stay. So that is something that we are going to actually, follow through with. We want to see people learn and stay with us and grow with us and have educated staff within Thames Center. And we've launched a new initiative. We've got flexible work arrangements in-house. We have policies offering competitive compensation plans and benefit packages. We're hoping to retain and keep moving with the good people that we have here. And when the time comes, we recruit even better people. Focus on multi-directional communication, tourism and residential visitor attraction. We've got great trails that loop in this community. Come, walk them, do the whole thing, and then buy something while you're here. But anyway, we've got lots of initiatives that people can come for a day and check out those things. And then, of course, I mentioned the improved broadband connectivity throughout the municipality. And then finally, if you have any more questions about our situation, or you want to link into Thames Center somehow, or get the app, or do whatever you'd like to do, there's some QR codes. There's all of our social media, some new, some old. And I encourage everybody to have a look at it. This is my presentation, Your Worship. I am complete with this part. I'll see you in a few minutes regarding the report.
Well, thank you, CAO Henry. That was a lot to read through, but well worth it. And I congratulate you and our senior staff for pushing on through with this. There was a couple roadblocks, not being able to get together as easily, and also with the different changes through our organization and through OMAFRA that made this not an easy project to pull together. It's interesting when you go through that, and some of those short and medium term projects are already completed. So, we're looking at that pool and knowing that's done. It was interesting to see the trails and cycling plan. That'll line up nicely with the newly announced $1.9 million that the county will be investing into a cycling strategy over the next few years. And again, we know that's not going to be all at once, but it'll tie into the roads as they get worked on. And that'll be great to be able to have Thames Center access that their roads as well. And the Thames Center app, I think, has saved me a few times now when I'm out and about and somebody asks me a question. You can just pop onto the app and give them the information. And I think that throughout the township, people are using that app. So it was a really welcome addition. So I'm just going to open that up to any questions from council or comments. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, Mayor Warwick. I just wondering what is short-term, medium-term, long-term in terms of, is it months or years, or like what do those terms mean?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so the short term is the quick wins, the things that we can accomplish now. As noted when I started this, it was the strategic plan was to run from 2020 to 2024. So I guess if you're going to gauge it from that, you would say anything short term is immediate, anything medium term would be in the next couple of years, and anything long term would be within the 4 years, and not necessarily happening in that order. Because there's things that we have accomplished or things that come easier, or it's council's pleasure that they want to see something expedited.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, and just one more comment, or maybe a question, is the trails and cycling master plan. Why is that long term? It feels like it should be like short or medium term. Like we've been talking about it for a long time. Why can't we make that happen faster?
Through Your Worship, again, it's council's pleasure. The two do not currently coincide. The trails and cycling master plan and the recreation master plan are two different animals, and they would come due at different times. I'm sure that Director McDonald, if it's council's will to see that come sooner, we could certainly do that sooner. But I think the one is actually due, but it's a long-term initiative because it's something that evolves over the whole time. It's not something that ever ends. It's not a project that we come to completion on. We're expanding on trails by many, many kilometers every year in this municipality. So it's not something that's just, one and done kind of thing.
And any other questions, Councillor Patterson? No, okay, Councillor Heeman, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I think this reflects a lot of what we discussed back when we could meet in person. And I think it's a positive sign that we have so many things underway and completed. Not only because, we're 2.5 years into this term, so we should have something to show for it. So I think that that's kind of appropriate, and it is reflected. And I personally appreciate kind of the higher level view in terms of what are some of the capital priorities. I know we have internal discussions and we have reports that reflect these, but I appreciate, for one, having it all put out, not only for council's benefit, but for the public benefit, in identifying that, there's more than just priorities. There is a plan, and there is a cycle that we have to manage all these priorities through. So I think it's a good reflection that we have many of these under our belt, and I think that the priorities we have in front of us do reflect both the broader community needs, the needs of the municipality, and I think new and developing concerns. So I think we are being forward-looking in this plan.
Anybody else have any comments? Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, sorry, one more question. In one of the CEO's slides, there was a long-term plan about community improvement plan. So I don't know what that is, and maybe you can help me understand what that is.
Do you want to speak to that, CEO Henry?
I do. Thank you, Your Worship. The community improvement plan has actually already come to council and was actually voted down. So it was something, yes, it was in the long term. It's probably back in there because it was put in there initially in 2019. It was a long-term initiative. We brought it forth earlier. We brought it forth in 2020, and it was voted against. So it's there. If it wants to be reconsidered, it can be revisited in the plan. But it was there because council had it put there during the sessions through 2019. It just happened to come to our table earlier because all of the county was looking at a community improvement plan initiative. And as mentioned, we brought it forth and it was voted against.
And I do think there are some parts of the county that went ahead with their community improvement plan, but we, at that time when we looked at it, we're not quite ready for it. So I mean, it is a matter that can be revisited at any time. Yeah, so I don't see any other hands up at the moment. So I'm going to ask for a motion to receive this as information. Okay, Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? All right, so for all our loyal YouTube video watchers out there, we're on to the consent agenda now. Items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and may require discussion, but no action on the part of council. Consent items are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more item be removed for further action. Is there anything in here, council, that you see you want removed? Deputy.
Sorry, I just actually had a comment and then a question. So just a comment about 6.6, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, March 2021 report to council. So as you're all aware, I represent Thames Centre on FCM's board of directors. And during March, we held our board of directors and committee meetings, which was 4 full days of meetings. Here is for you to review the report back to local councils on the highlights of the work that we did during those 4 days. So one thing I did really want to emphasize is the rural lens that FCM has been taking when advocating for communities across the country. So one of the asks in our federal budget recommendations was for a rural lens to be placed in the national recovery, specifically in removing project size thresholds for funding, as well as the growing need for rural and remote streams for a homelessness strategy, as well as transportation. And we are starting to see the advocacy that we've been doing come to fruition, as during the Municipal Infrastructure and Transportation Committee that I vice chair, we discussed the most recent announcement for rural streams of $250 million over the next 5 years in rural transit funding. And furthermore, just to add, I'm actually doing a roundtable through SCM's Rural Forum on Thursday this week with Minister Maria Monsef to further discuss the needs for rural communities when it comes to transit and how this transit funding will be put out to the rural communities. So just to highlight that work we did. And then I just had a quick question, and I'm not sure if it'll go to our fire chief or to our CAO, but just regarding the fire report, we're still seeing the calls canceled on routes to Highway 401. And we've done a few delegations with the Ministry of Transportation, and most recently we did one at OGRA, and I'm just wondering if we've had any feedback from the Ministry of Transportation regarding our delegations.
Thank you, through your worship. We have not. I sat in through that delegation, so Chief Armstrong, I'm just going to grab this one. So I fully expected to hear back. There was some great response. There was some rapid note taking during that session, and I'm kind of surprised that we haven't heard back from them, but we have not.
All right, and I just want to say, we'll just go through this. I'll just read them through and then we'll vote on them. But I do want to bring attention to the quarterly department reports. And those are the reports from staff from January to March of this year. And I don't know if council noticed or not, but the number of building inspections in those 3 months was 642, which I think is an amazing amount, knowing that the times. And in January, there was 233. February 143, March 266. So I just want to have a shout out to the planning and building and bylaw officers, because that's an amazing amount of work that you achieved in those 3 months. Anyway, I'm just going to go through the list here. 6.1 is the regular council minutes for March 29th. 6.2 is Thames Center Special Events Committee minutes. 6.3 is Thames Center Police Services Board minutes. 6.4 is a letter from the Solicitor General with the update on new OPP detachment boards. 6.5, the Ministry of Finance regarding Ontario Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund, and that was an interesting conversation a couple of years ago, because we voted to stay in, which will allow us to receive some funds back from that. Any communities that opted out will not be getting funds, but luckily we stayed in and we will be getting some money from them. Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Deputy Mayor Elliott mentioned that already. For all of you that drive down Highway 74, or Westchester Bourne as officially named, Dillon Consulting has their interchange improvements and timeline for those. Again, as the 6.8, the quarterly department reports we mentioned already, and 6.9, the Middlesex London Board of Health update. So looking for a motion to accept those as presented. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favor? Great. So now we're going to move on to the reports of departments. And the first one is 7.1, Admin 00321, Municipality of Thames Centre Strategic Plan 2020-2024, with a motion there. Did you need to speak to that again, P.O. Henry?
Through your worship, I certainly don't. Everything was contained within the presentation. There really isn't any changes, other than there are 3 recommendations before you. Noting in that the 3rd recommendation, there have been noted comments from staff in the last paragraph, and I would encourage that there is careful consideration made to that 3rd recommendation. Other than that, Admin 00321 is before you for consideration, Council.
Councillor Heeman?
Yeah, I would like to move the 3 recommendations as proposed, And I just would ask for some guidance on point 3, because it does require us to have a discussion and there are some options. So I don't, if we want to have that discussion now and decide, or maybe give it some time to marinate, so to speak, before we make a final decision. But I think that well, at the time when we asked CAO Finlater to prepare this, I think that this definitely meets the criteria that we set out to staff.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. And I think maybe you're referring to with that third part is the suggestions about the municipal slogan. Maybe we could defer that to have some better discussion about what our slogan might be. I see there's a few suggested here: a step above, growing together, where town and country meet, which was actually the Royal Winter Fair's slogan for a number of years, but who knows, they won't mind if we take it. Where you're always welcome. So there's a few different considerations. So maybe as far as that, we could defer that discussion until later if anybody's in favor of that.
I would accept that as an amendment. So being the first 2 recommendations, with tabling the 3rd recommendation pending further discussion.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay, great. And do you have a comment? Yep. Deputy Mayor Elliott, go ahead.
Yes, through your worship. I mean, as CAO Henry had pointed out, we started this in 2019. So I'm just kind of seeking clarification on deferring that as to what the timelines are, because I don't want to have us sit here for another year on when we will come up with a slogan. So I'm just wondering what you see, CAO Henry, as a reasonable time frame and how we go about discussing this if we're going to defer it.
Okay, through you, your worship, thank you. First and foremost, in deferring it, I'm certain that Tina will pop on the screen here, but I'm quite certain we've just put it under old business. And the ramifications of leaving it, the sooner the better, of course. We want to move through. We've started with branding. We've started with all these initiatives. You heard me mention banner program within the strategic plan. This slogan is something we're going to want to put on those banners and start promoting it throughout. So it's council's pleasure, but the sooner the better would be beneficial for all departments involved. And I would say probably the next meeting in May, or the first day meeting in May.
And I see Tina's popped up.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm going to confirm with CAO Henry that I'm going to put this item under unfinished business, and it'll carry through on every agenda.
Elliott?
Yeah, through your worship, I'm wondering, maybe just so this doesn't sit forever, if we could maybe have a visioning session before our meeting in May or something.
Yes, through your worship, if that's what we'd like to have schedule a separate meeting or a separate visioning session, we could probably do that without any problem and have some discussion in this regard.
Yeah. We would be able to have a special meeting where we would all be able to discuss virtually, or depending on the circumstances, in person. I do think it is an important thing because it's going to be an investment to brand our municipality. So I think it's worthwhile talking about that. So any other conversation here? Because we do have a mover and seconder, we have an amendment, and then we have another. Would that be a separate motion, Tina, that we have a visioning session?
Yes, I believe it should be.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and that's basically to do the information and receive it as presented, but also with the amendment to defer the slogan until a later date. So that's what we've got a mover and a seconder for. So I'm going to ask to call the vote now. In favor? Okay, great. And then we have another motion to find. Do you want to go ahead with it, Kelly?
Yes, I would just put a motion on.
I just put a motion on the floor to direct staff to create a visioning session that works with council's schedule.
Okay, Councillor Heeman, did you have a comment there? Your hand is up.
I just want to second that.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry, did you have a comment now, Councillor Heeman?
Yeah, just as a comment, I really like growing together. So I'm gonna save the discussion. till
Okay,
later,
we're
though.
gonna wait till this vision session's gonna go. All right, so all in favor? Great. Now moving on to the reports of departments. Again, we've got the PDS BD 00421, and I believe Councillor Heeman, you declared a conflict of interest with this report. Okay, and I see Aaron's popped up in the screen. Mr. Stewartson, are you presenting that report to us?
Yes, Your Worship, I am.
Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Council. PDS BD 004-21 is a refreshment truck bylaw or a food truck bylaw, right? It is a bylaw to replace an outdated one we've had since, I believe, the 1980s, right? So this bylaw is to promote some business and update the existing one. I'll open it up to Council for any questions.
Council, any questions about this? I know I was a little astonished when I saw our last bylaw was 1985. Somehow that's gone through the radar a little bit, but it'll be good to have an updated one. Councillor Patterson, I did see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. Is there a fee to apply for this refreshment, I guess, license?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. There is a fee. Currently, the fee is $100 in our tariff and fees bylaw. We're looking to amend that. It'll be something looked at yearly, but it will be a cost recovery fee based on staff time.
Councillor Patterson?
Okay, so an item on page 4 of 10, it's 2.8. Says no person shall operate a refreshment vehicle overnight between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Now I know a lot of people with weddings and stuff. They're getting food trucks in for their midnight buffet after their wedding meal. So I'm having an issue with the 11 p.m.
Through you, Your Worship, we considered that based on our noise bylaw, right? So we were trying to keep in line with our noise bylaw and other bylaws in operation. It's something we can consider looking into, but that's the reason that 11 p.m. was chosen.
And Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, one last question. 2.13, it says no person shall use a power fuel generator. Don't a lot of these food trucks use generators to power their equipment when they have to?
Through you, Your Worship, some food trucks will require a generator. One of our concerns we have is we're allowing the food trucks, the refreshment vehicles, to operate in public parks and in public spaces, right? So we don't want that noise, that sound there all the time. There are other options. Refreshment vehicles can operate via battery, they can operate off propane, or they can operate off a plug-in of a power source at a place, right? So we don't want that. It's that noise aspect we're trying to avoid of a portable generator running full time there all day.
Go ahead.
Mayor Work, is there an opportunity for, say, a food truck operator wants to serve a midnight meal or 1 a.m. meal at a wedding? Can they apply to the municipality and change that 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. ruling?
I'm just going to say, Mr. Stewartson, I would have thought most of this referred to municipal land, like on a private property. Would it be able to get a special permit to go past that time?
To Your Worship, yes, I believe that's something, although the bylaw doesn't speak to a variance or anything like that, it is something that it could be council's consideration.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Elliott, go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship, I had the same concern regarding the 11 p.m., but my thoughts were, and maybe just for some clarification through Mr. Stewardson, when someone wants to go past the noise bylaw, they can apply to council for an exemption to go longer past the bylaw, and it can be a one-off. So I'm not sure if it's written directly in our noise bylaw that that's possible, or if that's just kind of an assumption that you can apply for that exemption. And so would the food truck, or sorry, the food refreshments vehicle be the same, and that they could apply for an exemption in order to go over that in those one-off occasions?
Through you, your worship, yeah, definitely a person could apply to council for an amendment or consideration. You use the word variance, right? I know our noise bylaw doesn't allow for a variance as well, right? So they definitely could apply for that.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So we have, going back to we have a recommended motion in front of us, that report number PDS-BD 00421 regarding the municipality of Thames Centre refreshment vehicle bylaw be received as information, and that council passed bylaw 029-2021 being the municipality of Thames Centre refreshment vehicle bylaw. Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, I would support that with the amendment of 2.8 being the changing the hours from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. instead of 11. Yeah, just
Okay.
change the 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Then I would be happy to support it. But if it stays at 11, I don't want to support it.
So I just want to make clear that you wouldn't support it if there was an opportunity for the person that wanted to go past 11 to receive permission?
I mean, that's fine, but it's an extra, it's paperwork. It's hard to do that. So I just rather just put it at 2 a.m. and then they know they can go to 2 a.m.
Okay, Councillor Hunter, I see your hand up.
Through you, your worship, these food trucks, how many halls or whatever would we have in the municipality where weddings and this type of thing is going to, for a wedding or a late night party or whatever? How many venues would we have where they would be applying for the extra time? Maybe the building inspector would know that.
Go ahead, Aaron. I mean, I think we have like our own halls that we would relating to, and the rest of them would be private events like golf clubs and things like that. So,
Yeah, what I'm getting at is for the number of times that they would have to apply for extended hours, I don't see that being a problem. Like, it's not that onerous a task to go through to apply for the extension in my mind.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Elliott?
Yeah, my concern putting it to 2 a.m. is just that it contravenes our noise bylaw. We have a noise bylaw that is until 11 p.m. and to allow food trucks to run outside, and albeit even if it's at a private residence, but it could also be on one of our streets, it could also be in one of our parks, to allow them to operate until 2 o'clock a.m. in one of those areas might cause an issue with neighboring residents. And so I would support the 11 p.m. Just as long as it's clear that a variance can be applied to, just as if they would apply for a variance for our noise bylaw, the same thing.
Councillor Hunter, I saw your screen highlighted. Did you want to say something? No?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. So we have the bylaw as written in front of us, and we have Councillor Patterson wishing to make an amendment to that bylaw to make it 2 a.m. So I just want to check with our chief paper pusher, Tina, just to see the best way to do that. So
I'll make the motion to amend it.
To amend it to 2 a.m.
2 a.m. for item number 2.8.
Okay, and Tina, just, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Okay, so Councillor Patterson moved it if it was amended to 2 a.m. So we should have a vote on who's in favor of that. If there's a seconder for that.
Very good. So we have a seconder for that 2 a.m. Amendment. Okay. He's declared, yeah. Okay, so I don't see any hands up for that. So there is no seconder, so that motion would be lost. And back to the original bylaw, which I feel comfortable that if somebody wanted to go further, that I don't think Aaron's unreasonable in being able to talk to about that kind of thing. So Deputy Mayor Elliott, are you moving the original one?
Yeah, if I can just move it with the specification that a variance is allowed and whether that has to be written directly in the bylaw, but I just want that clear.
Okay. And Tina?
To Mr. Stewardson, would it be possible for the bylaw to come back amended and to a future council meeting, or what would be best for your staff?
Absolutely, we can amend the bylaw to suit. Yep.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Elliott?
So I'll just make a motion to receive this report for information and that staff be directed to bring bylaw 29/2021 back to council's consideration at our next meeting with the amendment that a variance can be applied for.
Okay. Seconder for that, Councillor Hunter. Okay. Any other comments or questions before I call the vote? Okay, all in favor? Against? Okay, and motion carried. And Councillor Heeman, wherever you are, you can come back again. Okay, and our next 7.3 PDS BD 00321 Building Services 2020 Annual Report. And looks like Mr. Stewardson is going to be here for that one, or not? Has he gone away?
Thank you, Your Worship. In front of you, Council, is PDS BD 003-21. It's the annual report for the building department for 2020. In 2020, we issued 359 permits. Around approximately 1,800 inspections were done. And from 2019 to 2020, we've seen an 83% increase of inspections and a 23% increase of permits. I'll open up for any questions.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Heeman, was that your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just through you, Your Worship, to the chief building and official. I was just wondering, with this increased service load, do you think there's any additional resource requirements that might be advisable given the sheer demand for building services?
Just before, and just Councillor Patterson, are you in the? Can you still hear us? I'm just trying to verify that Councillor Patterson can hear and participate because he's gone off the screen.
So as part of our procedural bylaw, if this happens, we still have quorum. So when he comes back in, you can still continue.
All right, sorry to interrupt you, Councillor Heeman, and go ahead, Mr. Stewardson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. Yes, as you're aware, currently the building department is undertaking a fee review study as well to look at our building permit fees as we're a cost recovery service provided by the municipality. And with that, it's something staff will or may be considering this year as well. I hope that answers your question there, Tom.
Any other questions regarding this report? Other than that's a lot of yearly activity. It's going to get more, I think. Counselor, or sorry, not counselor, giving you either a demotion or promotion, depending on your view on that sort of thing. Ms. Grogan.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to advise council that during the 2021 budget deliberations, we did include additional fees in our subcontracting budget line directly related to building inspection. So we do have some funds set aside for those types of services where we need to contract a building inspector to help support the workload of the current department.
I know that we did include that in our budget, and thank you for reminding me, because I don't think Aaron's job's going to get any less. I think it's going to get more. So I'm sure that he will bring something forward to let us know when that appropriate time is, when somebody is coming to join him. So thank you again for reminding us that. So I do have a recommendation in front of us, that report number PDS BD 00321 regarding the building services 2020 annual report be received for information. I just wanted to double check, Councillor Patterson, were you able to hear the discussion that we had? You muted, Councillor Patterson, sorry. Councillor Patterson, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Wi-Fi
Yeah.
is terrible at my
That's
house.
okay.
So.
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Okay. So you heard everything that we were just talking about?
Yeah, I heard everything, but I didn't have any video for some reason.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to call the vote. Did we do a mover and a seconder? No. Okay. So your mover and Councillor Hunter seconder. All in favor? Great. Thank you. So now moving on to PDS 2021 Development Charges Bylaw Update and Parkland Dedication Bylaw Project. And I see Mr. Bancroft coming up. So it looks like he is speaking to that report.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, and members of council. So with my report, I'm seeking council's approval to advance a single source provider for the development charge update, which is to happen in 2021, and also a new parkland dedication bylaw. So the parkland dedication bylaw also was not included as part of the 2021 operating budget. So I'm also seeking consent in that respect. But my report is pretty straightforward. It speaks to Watson, in that Watson and Associates, they have a proposal in the amount of $41,000, of which 31,281 applies to the DC update, which is within our budget allocation of 35,000. But the balance of $10,237, it was not included in the operating budget, and hence I'm seeking council's approval in that regard. My report speaks to the merits in allowing this to move forward, and also in terms of financial implications. Again, although it wasn't included in the proposed budget relative to the parkland dedication bylaw, I'm recommending that that portion be funded through the planning operating reserve, which currently stands at $81,268. So I'm here to answer any questions, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Director Bancroft? No, seeing none. And I'm glad that we are able to keep those reserves for different things like this when they rise upon occasion. But the parkland dedication piece seems to be a conversation more and more, and I think will grow as we talk to more and more subdivisions coming forward. So it's important that we have that clear and a good policy for that. So, okay, thank you. All right, council, your wishes. I think there's 3 different recommendations there. Councillor Hunter?
I would move the 3 recommendations of the planner.
Okay, thank you. Seconder?
I will, just noting there's 4.
Oh my gosh, I only got 3 on this recommendation. Where's the rest? Oh my,
Oh, four,
sorry
yeah.
about that.
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
It's all right, it was my fault, Paul. I was leading you astray again. So we've got the recommendations as presented. I should have just stuck with that. And we've got a mover and a seconder, and now all in favor? Great, thank you. And moving on, we have CS 00721 Annual Events Agreement with I Love Community. And I would believe, oh, there he is actually. Director McDonald is speaking to that.
Good afternoon, Council. Through you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to receive approval to enter into an agreement with I Love Community, which will specify what support the municipality will provide for specified annual community events organized by I Love Community. The support will be in the ways of free facility usage, as well as some assistance by municipal staff. Traditionally, I Love Community has had to bring each request before council for their community events. So with this agreement, we would specify all of those terms for all of the community events that we focus on here. And the plan is to do a 1-year trial basis, after which time I would report back to council as to how the first year went, and at the same time bring back a updated agreement for a longer term, which would take into account any adjustments for anything that we didn't find go perfectly as wanted by both sides for the first year. The annual events that are in this agreement are their Winter Carnival, the Easter Carnival, a Back 40 Bash, and with one note, a difference from the past Back 40 Bash is that moving forward, they're planning for the for a Friday night to have a youth event, and then the normal Saturday event for adults, as well as a haunted house, which has traditionally not been held at municipal property, but they need a larger venue, and hence our new community center would be perfect for that. The key benefit for this agreement is providing I Love Community with assurances in advance of what we're providing to them, which I think will really go a long way in allowing them to promote and plan and grow this event from 1 year to the next, as opposed to every time having to wait and see and hope that everything is still status quo with municipal support. And I'll take any questions that council might have at this time.
Yeah, I just wanted to just double check. This is the same agreement that we have with the Dorchester Fair Board and the Thorndale Fair Board, actually the agricultural societies with the fairs that we have each year.
I can't speak to the Dorchester Fair agreement. I'm not familiar with
yeah,
that.
you know
one.
what? We wouldn't. This is the parade. I think that we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
yeah, there's a lot
we
of.
do give.
Sorry,
but we do give a contribution to each of those, and it's already an agreement that we have in place, so they don't have to come and present to council each year. So I think that's the understanding, I think, and if anybody can correct me or who remembers, Tom, you might, it's like $1,500 per fair to support their fair.
Yeah, and I think like the service agreement component was there's the legacy of the transition of the deed or of the property, and there was a common understanding about access, and then that re-entrenched access, and it was a similar instance, to a budget or a agenda item earlier about it was a matter of updating an agreement that was last done in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think this is similar in that it's that putting fixed dates on the calendar then makes it easier for both staff and community groups to plan accordingly.
I remember the days of the community partnership fund where we would have to come and present each year in January and try and figure out what it was that you were doing and to try and scramble and make sure that you've got that approval to plan. So I know, speaking from the fair boards, it was a great way because you knew you were getting a certain amount of money each year and you could plan for that. So any other comments or questions? Councillor Patterson?
Mayor Warwick, is that true? Like, does the Agriculture Society in Dorchester, do they not have to come every year and ask us for a donation to their organization?
I think what's happened is a letter's been sent to the actually she's just popped up, so she can answer the question for you. As far as I remember, it's a letter that gets sent every year.
Yes, it is, absolutely, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Patterson. It is $1,500 per year. It's a request that comes forward to council during our budget deliberations, and the request is included in the lengthy Word document that that actually stipulates all the specific items that are included in that community grants budget line for our annual budget.
So
Mr.
just,
Patterson?
just so I'm clear, so they have to ask every single year. It's not automatic. We haven't bylawed it or
Well, I
anything
think
like that.
I think that it's
Sure.
a courtesy letter, and it's written down in our budget as a budget line each year.
Yes,
Yeah.
through you, your worship, I can confirm that it's included in the budget on an annual basis as a specific allocation.
And sorry,
Mhm.
Mayor Work, council could decide at that specific budget time to say yes or no. We could do that.
Yeah, like I would think you know, for 2020 or 2021, you might say, well, you know, there's no fair, so we're not going to support it. So, you know, that money would stay back with the municipality. So I think there's different reasons, but I know from a person previously in my previous life, if somebody used to come in front of council every year, this arrangement is a lot easier for different volunteer societies to realize their goals. Councillor Patterson, did you have another question or anything?
Well, I do, but I see Councillor Heeman.
Oh, okay, we're going to go to him then. Councillor Heeman.
Okay, I just want to make a point though that as far as my reading of this request is that there isn't any actual financial request. This is largely service in kind. And I think that the service agreements that have similar applications are not about a dollar contribution, they're about in-kind contributions. And so I think that's similar to, you know, the Dorchester Lions access to certain facilities for fundraising on like an annual and ongoing basis. I don't think anyone wants to kick them out on Canada Day. So I think it's kind of a similar type agreement. And in terms of direct financial compensation, we did do a grant to I Love Community in a previous budget, but that has not been a reoccurring donation because there hasn't been a reoccurring ask. So this is just service in kind, which you can put a real dollar value to. But
And I think you're correct. Like there are the same sort of things with the Dorchester Lions selling the Christmas trees or hosting the fireworks or doing different things. Deputy Mayor Elliott, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I'm just mute, sorry. Yeah, through your worship, I would just echo the comments that Councillor Heeman made. These are for service in kind, not for dollar amounts. And any service organization that uses our facilities and wants to have an agreement like this, our Director McDonald has been putting these agreements together. It's not the first one. We've seen one for the Thorndale Agricultural Society. We've seen one for the Thorndale Lions Club, for the Thorndale Optimist Club. So if any Dorchester organization wants to come forward with an agreement to have an agreement with the use of facilities, Director McDonald is here to do that. And I'm sure he would be more than willing to reach out to the organizations that use our facilities as well. And I just want to say this is a positive step forward, and it's great to see these agreements coming into place because there has been a lot of tension in the past in regards to service groups and what they think they are allowed to or what they think they should be getting for the municipality. This provides everything in black and white, and we know exactly what we're walking into, and they know exactly what they're getting from the municipality. And as Director McDonald said, there's nothing out of the ordinary in which the group hasn't been asking for in the past, whether it's their Back 40 Bash, their Winter Carnival, the Easter egg hunt. These have been going on for years. I think their first Winter Carnival was 5 years ago. And just as a side note, I just want to mention that it's absolutely fantastic to see I Love Thorndale. And for those that are not familiar, they did incorporate under the I Love community because the whole intention was to spread out and go into other communities with the framework that I Love Thorndale built. And I know I was first involved with I Love Thorndale before I was on council and in the very beginning of that. And it was our intention moving forward that we would expand out into other communities. So I do applaud the work that Arden and Becky have done to do this. And most recently, and it has just been coming out on Facebook in the last day or so, but there is an I Love Dorchester starting under the I Love Community umbrella, and that's starting to take off. And so I applaud the women that are involved in starting I Love Dorchester and being under that I Love Community umbrella as they get their feet going and start having more activities. I can absolutely see that we will have to adjust this agreement as they offer events in Dorchester as well. So just a thank you to Director McDonald for your work in this.
Councillor Patterson?
Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Elliott talked about it's a donation I guess a donation in kind, but it's still money. So we have staff time. So I want to know, what does this cost the residents of Dorchester or Thames Centre? Sorry.
Go ahead, Director McDonald.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Patterson. So we did crunch the numbers on the facility aspect for the free facility usage and the special events trailer and whatnot. And it comes in for an annual for everything of just around $5,000. But that's also including for the Easter egg hunt, they just have the Thorndale Hall and the 3 meeting rooms on hold. So if they didn't need those, the facility for the Easter hunt, then that would bring it down closer, just over $4,000. And that's for all the facility, all the rental fees, the standard fees. That is not including the little bit of staff, the little bit of labor that would also be involved. However, with any rental or event in Thorndale or at any of our facilities, we normally have staff there, so it would be no different in that regard.
Councillor Heeman?
I would volunteer just for context. I think when maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago when the original Thorndale Agricultural Society agreement was drafted, the full weekend's rentals for the whole grounds and facilities at that time was valued at $8,000. I think that in kind would be increased by inflation and whatnot. So just as another comparison for 2 days of the whole grounds would be a similar comparison of that value to put in context.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Elliott?
Yeah, I'm going to move the two recommendations.
Okay, and I see a seconder, that's Councillor Heeman. Is that what you're raising your hand for? And I did see our Director of Finance pop up on the screen. Did you have a comment, Kim?
Sorry, no. Director McDonald handled those financial implication comments well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder, and I'm going to call the vote now. All in favor? Okay, and against? Okay, thank you. Motion carried. And now we're moving on to PWTS 00121, traffic calming measures update. And looks like Director Craven is here and ready to go.
Okay, Your Worship, before you is report PWTS 001-21, traffic calming measures update. The purpose of this report is to update Council on traffic calming measures that have been and will be taken in order to collect valuable traffic data that can be used to design a traffic calming plan for both our rural and urban roadways. As Council is well aware, the increased demand for traffic calming measures from the public has changed over the last number of years and has required staff to develop an effective traffic calming plan based on community needs, changing and emerging technology, and current industrial practices. The first step in implementing a traffic calming plan is to identify the speeding issues. Targeted areas can be identified a number of ways. A proponent may submit a concern, or a staff may identify issues regarding speeding, aggressive driving, cut-through traffic, increased vehicle collisions, or pedestrian safety occurring within a neighborhood. Once these areas have been identified, educational tools such as radar messaging boards are installed to educate the public and collect valuable data that can be used by the police services to monitor, evaluate, and enforce traffic-related issues within these areas. Staff are also reviewing the option of an automated speed enforcement program, or ASE, through Reg 398-19. This allows for speed cameras in designated school and community safety zones in our communities. Staff are currently working on a turnkey ASE solution that would assist the municipality in implemented speed cameras in certain neighborhoods. Traffic calming measures come in many shapes and sizes with various scopes of work and budget implications. As you may recall in CEO Henry's presentation, there was an item included in the transportation and roads section of the strategic plan. If you have any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, I just want to say that this is a very timely report. We've had a lot of people messaging about, first of all, thanking us for putting those recording devices into their hamlets, as well as people asking why they don't have them in their hamlet when somebody else has them in their hamlet, which you knew was going to happen. So that's why we've got additional ones on order. But I must say, like, being party to some of the information that has come forward from this, it is quite horrifying when you see speeds of 120 kilometers an hour going through a hamlet being recorded. And I think it's an interesting thing that it can get sent to us directly to let us know. So I think that will help with the enforcement aspect as well.
Absolutely.
Yep. Council, any questions or comments regarding this? Deputy Mayor Elliott?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I just want to thank Jared for this report. It's something that I know I have been very passionate about, having a traffic calming plan moving forward. And I just want to say, I wish it was as simple as saying that we don't have to spend tax dollars on making our roads safe, that everybody would just drive the speed limit and do exactly what they're supposed to do. And this would completely be a null and void conversation that we're having. But I just wanted to point out, and you did include Vision Zero in your report, and just how important Vision Zero is, and the work that we've been doing at Good Roads in advocating for the provincial government in order to fundamentally reimagine the way that we design roads and that we look at road safety. And the kind of the ultimate objective of Vision Zero is that we go down to 0 fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. And we look at Ontario is seriously lagging behind when it comes to Vision Zero and implementing it. British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, PEI, Northwest Territories, they have all at a provincial or territory level have adopted a comprehensive road safety strategies. Although Ontario hasn't, we've seen communities here in Ontario like Toronto, next door in the City of London, Kingston, Peel, Durham. They've all developed Vision Zero strategies in their traffic calming plans in order, and Mississauga as well has adopted it as well. But just to say that Vision Zero does work, and so implementing plans like this into our communities does show, and kind of the one that sticks out the most is New York City, who has gone in the last 8 years, has gone full-blown Vision Zero. They've put over $1 billion in investments into their roads in order to implement Vision Zero. And what they've seen is a 44% decrease in traffic fatalities, and in overall fatalities are down 27%. So it goes to show that when we implement these, they do work in our community. So I look forward to the full plan coming to council, including Vision Zero.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to going to New York sometime and not being have to worry about my life by the sounds of it. Now, any other comments or questions regarding this? Councillor Heeman?
Yeah, I really appreciate this report, and I appreciate the implementation of these devices, and further to that, the exploration of further potential uses. I think the data generation is good, and I think it's good to have that confirmation of kind of some of our basic instincts about what's happening. And I'll just share an anecdote. I was out this past Sunday coming through Wabano, and I saw the new sign there, and I saw someone coming down the hill on Catherine Street, and I was able to look in my rearview mirror and see the brake lights go on. So that tells me something's happening. So again, these are really appreciated efforts.
Good.
I'm going to get a t-shirt that says unmuted and start wearing it because it seems like half the time you are. So I am going to ask for the recommended motion that report PTS 00121 be received for information, and that council direct staff to continue with all the collection of information and data in order to create a traffic calming plan that meets the exclusive needs of the municipality. Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Great. And now, Jared, just to keep you on your toes, we're going to jump back to 7.6 PWES 00421, which be the Dorchester and Thorndale 2020 wastewater treatment plant annual reports.
Good. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Through your worship, this report, PWES 00421, is for the Dorchester and Thorndale 2020 wastewater treatment plant annual reports. The wastewater treatment plants in both Thorndale and Dorchester are operated through contract services with Ontario Clean Water Agency. As you may recall, the 2020 annual drinking water summary reports for the two municipal drinking water systems were presented to council on March 5th at the March 5th council meeting. The 2020 annual operation reports for the Thorndale and Dorchester wastewater treatment plants were submitted to the ministry as required on March 5th, 2020. Provincial requirements for plant operations include various criteria that are evaluated against the limit that is not to be exceeded and a more stringent objective that is a target for operations to strive to meet. I'd like to bring to your attention the following exceedances or non-compliances that occurred over 2020. First, the Dorchester wastewater treatment plant had one non-compliance event for a total ammonia nitrogen monthly average limit exceedance in September of 2020. This exceedance was caused by the unfortunate combination of two SBR tanks out of service for upgrades at the same time that a catastrophic failure of a piece of equipment on a third SBR tank. The remaining fourth SBR tank, which would normally share plant flows with another SBR tank, was forced to function outside normal operations and handle the entire plant flow during this period. This exceedance was brought back into compliance in October and reported to the ministry on January 21st, 2021. The Thorndale wastewater treatment plant also had one non-compliance event during 2020. The total phosphorus limit was exceeded in December of 2020, mainly due to process changes that were being made when the second SBR tank was being put into operation in order to match the increased flows from new development. This exceedance was reported to the ministry on January 13th, 2021. Despite these isolated non-compliance events, both plants have performed well and have surpassed most target objectives. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for our director? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, Mayor Work. The phosphorus in Thorndale and then the ammonium, I think you said in September 2020 in Dorchester, is that the outflow of water going to the river? Is that
Through your worship,
they measure?
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have recommended motion that report PSES 00421 presented by the Director of Public Works regarding the 2020 annual reports for the Dorchester and Thorndale wastewater treatment plant provided by Aqua through the operations and maintenance contract be received for information. Looking for a mover? Councillor Hunter, seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Great. Now we have another report from Director Craven, which would be 7.8 FL 00221, heavy duty walk and rescue vehicle. Maybe this is actually, so we're looking at additional change orders.
Thank you, Worship. Report FL 002-21 for the heavy duty walk and rescue vehicle. Purpose of this report is to first request council's approval of two safety related change orders for the walk and rescue vehicle, and secondly, request that these costs be funded from the fleet capital reserve. The fire heavy rescue vehicle fire heavy rescue vehicles are made to order and require many months to custom build. Throughout this 15-month build process, the Thames Centre Fire Department Equipment Committee was in constant contact with the supplier. It was brought to the committee's attention over the course of the build that a number of safety items such as slip-resistant step grips, passenger side siren activation, and forward-facing blue lighting were either not available or understandably overlooked at the time of the 2019 request for tender. Change order requests such as these are very common on vehicles of this nature due to the large list of equipment options, as well as the ever-evolving fire vehicle safety industry. Decisions must be made quickly to avoid delays to an already time-sensitive assembly schedule. The change orders were recommended by the Fire Department Equipment Committee and Fire Chief and were approved by the former Director of Transportation and current Director of Public Works in order to keep the assembly process moving and to avoid delays in delivery. It should be noted that this unit was delivered last month and has already been successfully involved in over 10 fire rescue callouts. Staff are recommending that the additional costs associated with these change orders be funded from the Fleet Capital Reserve. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so we have the vehicle already. We just need to add some additions to it that are either weren't available or were just overlooked in that process, which is a lengthy process. I'm sure Chief Hunter and Councillor Patterson, or former Chief Hunter, promoted you again, and Councillor Patterson, no. So does anybody have any comments or questions regarding this report? Okay, so I'm looking for, let me just count it out, make sure I've got the right amount of motions here. 1, 2, 3. So the council received the report and that council approved the change orders related to safety features at a cost of $6,449.55, including non-rebatable HST, and that the additional cost be funded from the Fleet Capital Reserve. Mover? Councillor Patterson, seconded by, let's let the fire department do this one, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? Great. And
thank you.
Now we're moving on to the mayor. Oh, thank you, Director Craven. And we're moving on to the mayor's report. Since our last meeting on March 8th, we attended the County Council for March 9th. One of the interesting highlights was the Middlesex London Community Paramedic Service. It provides palliative care support, assisting at home with patients living at home with chronic diseases, as well as providing 24/7 access to non-emergency care for people waiting to get into long-term care. It also includes the bus that has been providing primary care as well as care for substance abuse. And they also have the COVID-19 response, dedicated paramedics helping with COVID needs. They've already done 27,500 nasal swabs as of March 9th and administered 7,000 vaccines to date. Recently, the Ministry of Long-Term Care provided $5,950,200 in a one-time funding to this group to be paid in throughout 4 payments in 2020 and 2024. So that's quite a feather in our cap for our Middlesex paramedics. It was well done. March 12th, we attended a webinar with Minister Steve Clerk and Minister Jill Dunlop. This was Ontario-wide, and the Middlesex Women's Caucus was pleased to be recognized in this webinar. March 17th, I attended the KCCA Kettle Creek Conservation Authority meeting, and this is no surprise. Online reservations went live on March 1st. There was a record number of reservations they received over the first 24 hours. So Lake Whitaker got 269 reservations March 1st compared to 42 in 2020 and 2019. Dalewood had 81 reservations compared to 11 in 2020 and 14 in 2019. So as of March 7th, Lake Whitaker had 373 reservations already and Dalewood 131. So you can tell there's a real urgency to get out of the house and go somewhere. And I know our provincial parks are full already as well. So it's going to be a busy year for camping. March 24th, I attended virtually the Zone 6 Ontario Association and Police Services Board. Our former mayor, Jim Maudsley, plays a large role in that association representing Zone 6, which is quite a large zone that goes all the way down to Windsor. There will be some changes coming to our Police Services Board shortly, and when those happen, we'll be giving you an update there. March 25th, I attended the SCORE, which is the South Central Ontario Region Economic Development Board meeting. Again, one of their success stories this year has been partnering with Conestoga College, Brant County Workforce Planning Board of Grand Erie, and Libro Credit Union in the creation of the Agricultural Equipment Operator Program, which just had its recent graduates and is taking a new intake for that. And there's a huge slant on agricultural goings on in SCORE, because that migrant farm worker program is at top of the list, as well as a lot of the concerns our farmers have. One of the strategic priorities, number one, that was focusing on infrastructure and supporting economic development. One of those being community transportation. And as Deputy Mayor Elliott alluded to earlier, the Saturday route has been added to ours. March 25th, the County of Middlesex had a webinar that provided us with some time to speak to Minister Clerk, Minister McNaughton, and Minister Urick about the current state of affairs. March 26th, the Middlesex Women's Caucus had a meeting with MPP Jeff Urick to discuss plans about moving forward with the aims of that group. March 23rd, County Council again, one of the reports was 2021 tax ratios. That's always an interesting topic. Property tax assessments for the 2021 property tax years are based on January 1st, 2016 current values. And there was a recent announcement from MPAC saying that this would continue to be the case for one more year. So I think we'll all be in for a little bit surprised to see our tax bills in a couple of years, because that's been a long time before they've been adjusted. April 7th, I chaired the emergency control group meeting, and that's always in consultation with our partners throughout the county. At 10 a.m. we had our special events meeting. And then the next day I had a meeting from 3:30 to 5:30 with the City County Liaison, which is a group of people from the county and people from the city. Representing the county was myself, our warden, Kathy Burghardt-Jessen, and Mayor Joanne Vanderheyden. And we also were joined with Mayor Ed Holder, Councillor Josh Morgan, and Councillor Stephen Turner. And that's always an interesting conversation. We have our staff and CEO in attendance as well. So that brings you up to date with what's been going on in the county and around. So thank you for indulging me in that. And moving on, now we have unfinished business, seeing none. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. New business. We have, who is speaking to this? Anybody? 11.1, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers request for supporting for delivering community power. Do we need to speak to this? Is it just something that we just file for information? Okay. All right, then. Tina's popping in. Do we need to?
Hi. There is a resolution that's recommended by the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. It's a quite lengthy one. It's a page. It's attached.
Yeah.
It's for council's consideration, whatever you wish.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Elliott.
Yeah, through your worship. I read through this resolution, and I just want to say first off, the irony of creating a 33-page booklet with many wasted pages and repeated information to talk about being a green leader is something. But I think there's a lot of great ideas in here, and I think there's absolutely some things that Canada Post should tackle, like the renewed powered postal fleet, leading a green energy transition, and even providing postal banking, particularly in rural remote communities. However, I'm not exactly confident that it's Canada Post jurisdiction for all of these ideas. And the one I speak to is the community hub, because if you look at everything we've been doing and investing in our comprehensive libraries, they're just doubling what we've been doing. So I don't feel comfortable moving forward with the recommendation or with the motion that they've provided us. And especially just with an upcoming federal election, this is just kind of an awkward pressure to get municipalities involved and pressure the federal government. So I would at the most be prepared just to make a motion to receive, and if council wants to indulge in anything related to what they're doing, maybe even just sending a letter to our MP, to Karen Vecchio, attaching the document stating that Thames Centre supports the dialogue of innovative ideas within Canada Post, such as their renewable power postal fleet, or leading the green energy transition. But that would kind of be where I'm sitting. I don't support the full motion as it's written there.
Mayor, I would just second to receive the motion.
unmute myself. No, it took me 3 times to unmute myself. It definitely didn't want me to speak. Okay, so we've got a motion and we've got a seconder. And I think Deputy Mayor Elliott, you raised some good points, but I don't know if they're going to need Thames Centre support to push that one through. I think PUPW is a strong union in itself and will be able to make their things known. So, okay, so we've got a mover, seconder, and all in favor? Okay, no closed session. Bylaws, we're pulling 2 bylaws out. And the first bylaw that we're pulling out is 13.2, the bylaw 24/2021, being a bylaw to levy final cost of the work for the construction of the Switzer Municipal Drain 2020. So Deputy Mayor Elliott declared a conflict on that. So I'm looking now for a mover for that one. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? Okay. And the second bylaw that we're pulling out is 13.6, bylaw 29/21, being a bylaw to license and regulate refreshment vehicles. And I think we go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're pulling that out to defer it.
Do we defer the actual bylaw or do the coming back? Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. Tom, you can come back anytime because we're going to defer that one. And we've already voted on that. So now we have 13.1.
Mayor, or do we need a motion to defer that? Right?
We did already when we discussed it.
That's correct. It was already deferred.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. 13.1, 13.3, 13.4, 13.5, 13.7, 13.8, 13.9. Is there any of those that anybody wanted to discuss before we vote on them? And 13.10 being confirmatory bylaw? No? Okay, then a mover. Okay. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? Okay, our next meeting will be Monday, April 26th at 5 p.m. And now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 3:31 p.m. Councillor Hunter, second. Deputy Elliott, all in favor? Okay, thanks for joining us. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.